would like to introduce our speaker, and today he's going to be talking to us about how to get referrals from at least 50% of your clients during the transaction. And so Micah Peterson has been building his mortgage business on a foundation of referrals since 2003. His strategic approach to guiding clients through the transaction process has resulted in a consistent referral rate, with at least 50% of his clients providing referrals before the transaction even closes. These proven methods can be easily adapted to any business. So I would like to bring Micah Peterson up so he can come in and teach us all about referrals.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Micah Peterson, and I am a mortgage broker, as Matthew mentioned. Started in the business in 2003, and I decided when I started that I wanted to build my business based on referrals, mostly because I didn't have any money for advertising. And so full transparency, I'm going to take one of these handouts as well because I'm just going to go off of this. Full transparency, all of this stuff that's on here is stuff that I learned from an organization actually called By Referral Only. They specialize in working with real estate agents and lenders. But what I've figured out over the years is that a lot of the principles and strategies can apply to any business. And so what I've done for today is I've just kind of pulled a few little things from all the stuff that I've learned over the years that I know works because it's stuff that I've done. And a lot of this stuff, there's a ton of free resources that you can just Google. The guy's name is Joe Stumpf. So if you put Joe Stumpf By Referral Only, there'll be a ton of stuff, and it's all free. So today what I want to talk about was specifically during the transaction and how to increase your referral rate. Because my experience is that is the best time to get referrals, is when you're in the transaction working with your client. And there's a bunch of touch points and systems and strategies, but today all I'm going to talk about is language. So this stuff doesn't cost you anything. It's just small changes in what you say, how you say it, when you say it, that can have a significant impact on the number of referrals that you get. So a couple things to start is just the words that we use. So for example, when we're talking business to business, we all know referrals. Everybody knows it's good to get referrals. Speaking with clients, what we want to do is we want to use words that are more accessible for them. And so introductions is a much more relatable word when you're talking with clients. And it's kind of one of those things where, like, if you close your eyes and think of a mental picture of a referral, it's kind of hard to do. But if you close your eyes and think of introduction, that's a little bit more accessible. Another help versus service. So the help that I provide you versus the services I provide you. Help is a more referable word than services. Service is kind of a weak word when it comes to asking for and getting referrals. Same thing with happy versus satisfied. So we want to talk about happy clients versus satisfied clients when we're talking about referral language. Okay, so I've got here 3 steps that I'm going to go over with you today. The first one is to plant referral seeds at your initial consultation. So you want to, some people call it pre-framing, pre-paving. You want to set the expectation up front that you work by referral and explain how this benefits the client. So I've got a script here, and then maybe at the end here, we can maybe have like a little role play kind of a thing to show how it can apply to just about any business. So the first one would letting people know this is how I work. So my purpose is for you to be so outrageously happy with the help that I give you that you'll gladly introduce me to at least 2 people you really care about before I even install your garage door, sell your house, get your insurance policy finalized, whatever your business is. And then Another thing that really helps with talking with people and explaining concepts that I've found is the use of stories and analogies. And so then you could talk about, I call it the reticular activator script. That's just a name I came up with. But one of the things that I'll do is I'll talk to people to kind of, again, set that expectation that, hey, we're in the middle of this transaction, so you're going to start noticing other people doing the same thing. This is the script. Experience shows me that when people are going through something in their lives, they start to notice other people going through the same thing. It's like when my wife got pregnant for the first time, all of a sudden she started seeing pregnant women everywhere. A friend of mine told me he went to go buy, he's like, I want to get the silver Dodge because nobody has a silver Dodge. And then he drove home with it and saw 3 on the way home. So as we move forward, you might begin to notice a friend, a family member, or a neighbor that is needing insurance or thinking about getting married or whatever the case may be. All I ask is that if you love the experience of working with me, if you truly feel it's great, is that when you notice someone who could use my help, you make sure we get into a conversation together. Fair enough? You ask for agreement. And then you're going to go into how this actually benefits the client. So there's, excuse me, there's another benefit for you in introducing me to your friends during the transaction that you may or may not already be aware of. You probably already know that the most time-consuming and expensive part of any business is finding new clients. What I would like to suggest is that in the days and weeks ahead, when you have whatever the thing is that you're helping them with, you'll look back and feel great that you introduced me to your friends during the transaction because it allowed me to invest the maximum amount of my time and energy and resources into you rather than out looking for new clients. And who would agree that that's true? I mean, how much easier is it to work with somebody that's referred to you versus calling a lead or going out and prospecting? Or, I mean, unless you're Michael, you can go door knock. You're the door knocking king. So you kind of framing it and then like, hey, it's actually going to help me spend more time working for you. I tell people all the time, I spend a lot more time with my clients up front and during the transaction. Probably a lot more than your typical loan officer is going to do. It's because I work by referral and I don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money and time and resources on trying to find new clients. And then here's probably the biggest thing that you can do to get to that 50% or better referral rate during the transaction. They call it the brag system. Our clients often have no idea what goes on behind the scenes and how much time and effort that we put into helping them solve their problems to ensure that their transaction is successful. With this system, it's not really about bragging. Really, it's more about making sure that your clients just know like what you do when they're not around. So every time a client says wow or thank you, you've got this, that's your number one window of opportunity to go in and ask for a referral. Rather than, you tell somebody, oh, you did this thing, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's great. Oh, no problem. That's what I'm here for. That's the part where you have the opportunity to go in and leverage that into a referral. So it would go something like this. Blow it up. That's talking about whatever the challenge is that you just overcame. Resolve it. You tell the client what you did to fix the problem. Acknowledge it. You bring it back to what you know is like maybe what you found out in your discovery call with them, like what really motivates them for doing whatever it is that you're helping them do. And then you go for it. You seize the opportunity, ask for the referral. And you want to try and do this at least once per transaction. And so I'm a lender, so I'll just use a quick example of how it would work with me. So maybe somebody came to me and bless you. Let's just say they had a credit issue and they weren't sure if they were going to be able to buy a house. So, I would call somebody up and I would say, hey, John, and so let's just say this is when I got their loan approved. Hey, when we talked, You thought maybe you had some old collections that you weren't sure about. Your credit score was kind of on the low side. It was kind of borderline what kind of a loan you might be able to get. I sat down with my team and we looked at the file and we called it three different underwriters to see who might be able to approve a loan. Two of them said no. One of them said maybe. And so I told you up front that we were going to submit everything. I was going to try and get all the documentation that I thought we would need. I sent it over to them. They came back and they said that the loan was declined. And so I didn't want to take that as the final answer. So I got on the phone with the underwriter. It looked to me like they had maybe missed a couple of things. So I spent about 3 hours on the phone today working with the underwriter supervisor. And I just want to let you know that I just got your loan approval. Wait for them to talk. They're probably going to say like, oh my gosh, that's great. Awesome. And then that is the time when you want to go in and ask for a referral. Because remember, you set it up front. That's how you work, and that you would ask them for a referral at a certain time. And so this is that time. And so when you go in and ask, this is another part where small changes in how you ask and what you say can have a big impact on the results that you get. And so a common way is like, oh, well, who do you know who needs earplugs or needs life insurance or whatever the case may be. But if you add that word next, who's the next person you know who gives some examples? What that does is it kind of triggers the person's like mental, we used to say Rolodex, now, contact list. It kind of triggers that mental, oh, okay, who is the next person that I know? And then if you can also encourage that with giving some specific examples. So it would go something like this. By the way, one more thing. Do you remember this is after you've delivered the good news and they've said, great, that's awesome, thanks. By the way, one more thing. Do you remember at our first meeting I told you that from time to time I'd ask you who you might have noticed who could use my help? Wait for them to remember that. Well, I want to ask you right now, who's the next person you know that's most likely to need insurance, need a garage door, need a retirement plan? And that is when you can start to give them, so they've got that, they're not just saying, who do you know? Oh, I don't know anybody right now, which is a lot of times what's going to be the response if you just say, who do you know? But if you say, who's the next person you know that's most likely to need a bookkeeper? Maybe it's a friend. And you know this person a little bit now, and so you can kind of put in things that maybe you know that they do. Like maybe they're a member at the gun range, or you know what church they go to, or they're on the PTA or the soccer club or whatever. You can put those examples here to help them with that mental search that they're doing. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe somebody from your church. Who comes to mind first? And then if they give you a name, we all know, oh, I told my friend about you, or oh yeah, I'll give him your number. But a better way to respond if they tell you somebody is, I'm curious, what do you think is the best way to introduce us? Ask them. Another thing I'll say is like, you know them better than I do. What do you think is the best way to get us in touch? And try and have that connection happen like right there. Like, oh, I'll do a group text right now, or I'll send an intro email. Whatever they're comfortable with. If they don't give you a name, that's okay. Then you can just kind of set it up that you might ask them later. Thanks for taking the time to think about it. Now that we've talked about it, chances are that you are going to notice somebody who needs my help. Would it be okay if I check back in a couple of weeks and see if you noticed anybody? And so that is, I would say, probably the biggest opportunity for getting a referral during the transaction is just doing that. Like if you did nothing else and just did that, just take advantage of when somebody says, oh my gosh, thanks, that's awesome. And really go into the details and specifics of what you actually did, because a lot of times they have no idea. They have no idea that you sat down and studied 4 different plans to figure out what was going to be the best one for them, and made sure that they were going to actually qualify for it based on their age and their income or whatever it is that you're doing. Or, I know you wanted this color on your door, and, it was out of stock for, 200 miles around, but I found a place. Whatever you do, just go into those details so that they really know, like, oh my gosh, this guy is really going, above and beyond. And you might not think it's a big deal, but they don't know that you're doing all of that, because, for us, I mean, you're all here 7:30 in the morning, so you're above average professionals that I know want to grow and be better and make your business better. And so I guarantee you that whatever field you guys are in, you're like higher level than average. And your clients may or may not know all of the work and effort, time, resources that you put in to help and make sure everything goes well for them. So let them know. And then when the best time, in my experience, to get a referral is when a client is like in a high appreciation level. And so that if you have a system that you say, okay, this is what I do when this happens, you're going to be more likely to do it, and you'll get more comfortable. And then that's why I say, the last one, practice with your referral partners, because you can get more comfortable with, how you're going to say it, what you're going to say, when you're going to say it. And then also, especially I would recommend like people that are in, let's say, complementary businesses, real estate agents, lenders, insurance, financial planners, people that, you probably would pass a lot of referrals around. If you're both now doing these kind of strategies, then referrals go up for both of you, and then that might be mutual clients again. And so it just kind of exponentially will increase and help everybody's business. And so does anybody have any questions? That's pretty much what I wanted to cover.
Question, girl. Thank you for that. That was really, really good.
Welcome. Thanks for noticing.
In this day and age of everything's high technology, right? People don't pick up the phone a lot. They text and email seems to be the way that people like to communicate mostly. Do you find that these types of strategies are more effective if you are able to get in front of someone versus just kind of being on the phone? Or obviously you're not going to email all of this, but
phone's good, I would say. A phone call,
yeah,
over a text. So, you want to deliver some good news, just text them, hey, can you call me when you have a minute? And it kind of depends on the situation. Like especially with what you do, we're helping people with out of the box loans that probably maybe have been turned down someplace else. So you're going to have like a really big opportunity to really blow it up what you did. And, I've heard people in workshops that I've gone to that kind of talk about, their strategies and how they do it. And sometimes people will be like, hey, can you give me a call? They call back, say, hey, you standing up or you sitting down? I'm sitting down. Well, you might want to stand up for this. Whatever they say the other thing. And then go into, your tax returns were a mess. You didn't, whatever, blah, 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 all this stuff that we knew was going to be a giant problem. I fixed it. And I know that that's important to you. That's the acknowledge part in that brag formula. I know it's important to you because you want to be into your house by the end of the month because of whatever. And then just wait, see if they go into a state of appreciation. And if they do, which if they don't, you probably don't want to work with them anyway. That's when you go in and ask for the referral in a specific and strategic way. But yeah, I would say phone call is probably the best. I mean, if you can get face-to-face, great. But it works just as well with the phone call, in my experience. I wouldn't try and do it with a text or an email.
Yeah.
So with your, what do you call it? The reticular activation scripts.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten any feedback from clients that their Because to me, and maybe it's just because I'm in business and I understand sales, that feels really like, oh, you're setting me up for something. Do you ever have your clients respond in a way that they're like, oh, what are you going for? Like, what's this going?
No, that hasn't. Well, let me tell you why. Okay, because a big piece of this is what happens before this conversation, which is when you are finding out what's important to them about you helping them. Okay, so what's the cheesy saying? People don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care, kind of a thing. Okay, so if you've done a good job of learning what's really important about them, and that's a whole nother strategy and training and way of being in business. But if you can get to, like 5, 6, or 7 levels deep on what's really important to them about getting their business out there and notifying their clients, then I've never had any pushback on that at all. In terms of that, again, I just, because from what I've seen, it kind of makes sense. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm probably going to notice more people because I'm doing this, because yeah, that does happen. And a lot of times people will be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. My wife said the same thing, or whatever the case may be. And excuse me. And so it's really just, if you just kind of think of it more of like just explaining how you work, it's never been an issue that I've come up against, or know anybody that has, really, for that matter. So, Lynn?
So just a current incident.
Yeah.
Just a current incident is we get flowers for brides and the groom, and so we have this flower order, but she wanted to have a corsage for a child, wrist corsage. Well, a lot of florists are not doing corsages anymore, and you wouldn't think that, but they're just not doing them. They do require a lot of extra time and work to put them together. But looking for somebody, since our current florist that we use on a regular basis doesn't do them anymore, I had to go looking for another place that would do this one corsage. And then 2 days ago, I thought I had somebody, and then she called and said she can't do it. So here I am having to go looking for another place that would do the corsage. And so is that something I should blow up?
Absolutely.
Because I have spent quite a bit of time.
I mean, how many of you were surprised that nobody's doing corsages right now? Okay. So my point is, your client probably doesn't even know that.
Yeah.
And so that would be, I think, a perfect opportunity to do that. Tell them exactly what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, most florists aren't doing corsages right now. I searched all over the place. I found someone that said they were going to do this one corsage for the kid. She called me 2 days ago. She told me she can't do it. So I started scrambling. I'm calling, I spent how many hours I made how many phone calls to, talk about the details. And excuse me. And I know we need to have it by such and such a date. And I just want to let you know, I found somebody that's going to do it. And then just wait and see what they say. Okay. And then if they say, oh my gosh, thanks, Lynn, you're amazing. Say, thanks for noticing. By the way, who's the next person you know that's thinking about getting married? Maybe somebody in your church, maybe one of your friends or your neighbors. Okay. What do you think would be the best way to get us connected so that I can give them the same kind of help that I just gave you?
Good.
I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
So we've got a little bit of time, and you talked about a little bit of role playing, maybe along that highway a little bit. I think my wife and I are both in service businesses, and I think a lot of us are in service businesses, and I think a lot of us, the knee-jerk reaction is, if I say to my customer, oh, I did all this work for you, now what are you going to do for me? That's what we feel like we're doing to them. Like we feel, and so somebody that has gone through a program and I'm sure the first 3 times you do it is different than the 25th time you've done it different than the
Definitely.
100th time you've done it. You just get more comfortable in your mannerisms of how you're presenting it, right? Because everything comes down to presentation. So I think of like a client that I'm working with right now. I put in a Ring doorbell last year. I recommended some more camera equipment on the side of her garage to capture the front of her property. And at the time, she goes, no, we're just going to stay with this. And then, of course, Amazon Prime's running their Prime sales right now. And she calls me up. She goes, oh, Sean, I think I should order this. And I'm like, well, you can do that, but that camera only has a single battery in it. And we live in winter up here. And what I recommended was having a solar and a camera that had an extra battery and it's not going to die. And I'm going through all these. And and she goes, you know what, Sean? I am so sorry. I even asked you about Amazon Prime sales. Just get me what you recommended. Just do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, in my world, everything I do is about building a really strong relationship with my clients to where they only want to call me.
Okay.
I think she called me a couple days ago asking me about Starlink, right? And so after having the conversation with her, she goes, oh, that would be a really big mistake for me to do that. And then a day later, she's thinking, oh, Sean, I need to buy more stuff from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crystal just went through a thing with a client where she put a ton of hours into bookkeeping. This client had a previous bookkeeper, and that bookkeeper just was guessing at what to do. I mean, really just on a scale of hundreds of thousands of dollars, really screwed up this guy's books.
Okay.
And so every time Crystal went deeper into the rabbit hole, she was like, well, now I'm going to have to spend another 10 hours fixing this problem. And I'm going to spend another. And so every time she talked to him, he'd be like, I am just so grateful that you're fixing this. I am so grateful that I know what's going on now. And so I think, especially for Crystal, like I'm always like, you need to hammer that guy for more business. That guy should be out singing your praises, right? Right? And Crystal's like, that's not me. That's not who I am. It's not what I do. I just want people to appreciate me and think of me, right?
Okay.
And so in my world, I always know my clients are going to call me. I know that I give them a service beyond what they're going to get when they go to a clerk in a chain store, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've never, ever in 30 years felt comfortable saying, I would like some of your friends. I would like some of your referrals. And so I think I'm speaking for probably part of the room where what you're talking about, in my mind, my knee jerk is, I can't do this. I'm just going to offend my clients. And I don't know if I really landed that into a good thing for you to talk about.
No, I get what you're saying, and I was the same way when I first got into business. Okay, but again, I didn't have a big marketing budget, so I was like, okay, well, I gotta figure something else out. Okay, but just to that, what you're talking about, so you know that your clients just know you're the guy to call. Okay, I would say that experience shows me that people feel good when they can go and recommend somebody that's awesome. Like, it's like, you kind of like let them be the hero. Okay. Like, do you, so let me ask you this. Okay. So you just explained like how your clients think of you. Okay. What do you think would happen if one of your if you asked for a referral and one of your clients referred you to their friend, and then their friend was like, dude, Sean's awesome. Thanks so much, man. That was I was totally going down the wrong path until I talked to him. Okay. So probably it's going to make your client feel good, right? And so it's, and if you've kind of, again, kind of like pre-framed it like that, you might do that. Okay. And these are just like a few little scripts that I pulled. There's dozens of them that you can kind of like weave into your business to just kind of let people know that is something that you're, that you have time to help their friends and family. It could even be that there's the I have time script. Like, oh, isn't it nice to know I've got time to help your friends and family who might need the same thing you do? Just leave it at that. There's ways to ease into it to where it, but I will say this, when it comes to like, this is for anything, not just this stuff, but for any kind of scripting or dialogue or anything you want to add into your business, what I was taught was that you imitate, assimilate, and then innovate. And so what that means is if somebody gives you a script and they say, hey, this script works, use it. So then you imitate it. So you practice it, you implement it, you do it over and over and over and over again, the exact way that the person told you is this is the way to do it. So that's imitate. And then assimilate comes from doing it over and over and over again to where it becomes more natural and just kind of part of the way you talk. And then innovate is when you can kind of change things up and put your own secret sauce on it and you know, make it your own, if you will. But I don't know, the way I look at it, and maybe it's just because it's kind of how I've always worked, is that when I ask somebody for a referral, they give me one. I know I'm gonna, this is another one. I'll tell people, I'm just kind of going off the cuff here, but you know, I'm gonna be working just as hard. So like, let's say somebody refers you to somebody. I tell them, like, look, I'm gonna be working just as hard for you because I know you're gonna go back and tell John how I'm doing. So my goal is that when this is all done, you're gonna go back and thank him for sending you to me. So if you take that referral and, you know, have, I don't know, reverence for it, if you will, and go and then do a good job, and then you now are the person that they referred. You're the only guy they ever want to call. Like that's going to get back to the person that you referred, and they're, you know, don't screw it up, because then it's going to look badly for you and for the person that referred. But you know, you do a good job, and so, you know, why wouldn't you want to help their friends too and let them know, like, when they're in that state of appreciation again. It's like, oh, dude, this is awesome. Thanks so much. You know, that's when you're asking. So yeah, you're not asking. You're setting it up that this is how you work, and that there's a benefit to the client, but you're not actually asking until you've delivered. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think there's a automatic negative voice in the back of, at least in my mind, that now I've set up this extra green camera for this client. I'm with her, I'm showing it to her. She's like, oh, this is fantastic. I love it. It's great. And in my mind, I'm thinking, am I really just going to start now asking her for her friends and family? Like, I think tier marketing, right? And in tier marketing, the very first thing they do is say, okay, give me 3 of your friends or family that I can now go and sell them water to. And so that's the negative, you know, in my mind, that I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
So what you're saying is it cultivates over time.
It cultivates. Well, you set it up at the beginning that this is how you work. And then you go and you ask at a specific time when they're at a high level of appreciation. And then you go and you deliver the same level of service to that person, so that it comes back to the person that referred you. And, you know, and then they're going to be, people like to refer people or introduce people, business to business. People like to refer people to someone that does a good job. I mean, so I remember what I was going to say. There's also a piece of it, which is this, is that there's going to be different kinds of people when it comes to getting introductions and asking referrals. So there's going to be about 15% of people that are not going to refer somebody no matter what. It's just not what they do. Okay. Then there's your promoters, which another 15% of people, which they're going to refer you no matter what because you did a good job. They're going to go sing your praises because you did an awesome job. And then there's 70% of the people that would refer, but only if you ask. It's just not really something that they do, but they would, but only if you ask. And so I guess my question to you would be, what would it do for your business if you got another 1 or 2 clients from every client that you worked with? You know, would that be worth the little bit of uncomfortableness at the beginning?
I mean, I've got 30 years of clients, and from time to time, a client will refer me, and we say in our industry, a referral is just gold. I mean, it's just like a sold deal. It's done, right? But I just sit around waiting for people.
Right. So you're counting on that 15% of the promoters that are going to refer you just because you did a good job, and that's just the kind of person they are. Yeah. That's not most people.
Okay.
but you've done a great job for everyone else. And so there's probably, 60 to 70% of those people that probably would refer you, recommend you, introduce you to somebody if you ask them. You just got to ask in the right way, and do it in more of a, once these kind of things sort of get more worked into your business and your language, and it becomes just more of like a natural, casual conversation rather than, now I want you to give me 3 names of people, like that's a pitch. Whereas what you want to do is just kind of have it just be part of your natural flowing conversation of, no, this is just how it worked. And isn't it nice to know that I can help the other people that you care about, because I've got time to help them, because that's how I work. I don't go spend a ton of money on advertising, chasing people that I don't know. Here's another thing I'll say, is that you might not want to ask for referrals from everybody. Because in my experience, people generally refer people that are like themselves. And so if you've got a really difficult client, it's like, I don't know if I want a referral from somebody like that. But if you follow that principle, then over time, the next 30 years of your business, you'll probably, capitalize on the people that you like working with, because they're just going to start referring more people that are like themselves, and then it just kind of snowballs from there.
Deborah's had a question, but I'll say something funny real quick, and hopefully everybody will laugh. I'm cueing you to laugh, okay?
See, you know how to do a setup.
So a client, a guy calls me and says, "Hey, my brother-in-law referred me. I just moved to the area. I want you guys to come out and do a system." So I send one of my guys out there to do a consultation. The guy goes, "This guy is really difficult." And I'm working with the guy, and I'm like, "Yeah, this guy seems really difficult." So one of the tactics we have is just to really overprice a job we don't want to do, because either we're gonna not get the job, or if we get it, it's gonna be worth doing it, right? But I end up just saying to the guy, I'm like, "I just don't think my company's a good fit for you. I'm really sorry." So I call back my client that I've worked for like 10 years, and I say, "Hey, I really appreciate you thinking about me, and I just your brother-in-law's kind of an asshole." Actually, here's the way it went. Is I said, "I don't think we are a good fit for your brother-in-law. We don't seem to have the same type of style that we have with you." And the guy goes, "Oh, my brother-in-law is an asshole. My wife made me refer you. I'm so glad you're not working for me. I don't want to hear about it." So that was
My wife made me. That's
Deborah,
hilarious.
go ahead.
So let me ask you something. Do you believe that you are the best at what you do?
For the clients I work for, yes.
Yeah.
I have a very particular client base, and when I work for those clients, I have them for like 30 years.
Awesome. So I think it's about mindset. I was having this conversation with my daughter the other day about cold calling. She's a realtor in Southern California, and she was like, "I hate cold calling. I'm not doing it. I can't handle the rejection." And I said, "Do you believe that you have something that they truly need, a service that they truly need, if they're obviously, in the market? And do you believe that you're the best at what you can do?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, then when you go into it with that mindset that I have something that they need, you're not, and that they need, and I know I'm going to make them happy." I don't know. To me, it just kind of changes the whole conversation. If you have that belief in yourself, that you have something, you're not trying to sell them something, you're not trying to pull something out of them. You truly believe that you did a great job for them. You can help their friends and family, and it just makes it.
You're doing them a favor by calling them.
You're doing them a
I'm
favor.
the best at this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the other thing, to that same point, is like, if you don't help them, someone else is.
Yeah.
And like I was saying before, like, everybody in this room is top of their game, and most people aren't. And so if you don't help them, someone else is going to, and it's probably not going to be as good of a transaction as if you help them.
Yeah, as a loan processor, I worked with a lot of other loan officers, right? Because I'm on the back end. I know what they're like out there.
Yeah.
That gives me confidence in the job that I do, because I saw the literally worst of the worst. And I don't even know how they get any business, some of them.
No, it's shocking how bad some people are at their jobs.
Do you find that you get, or I guess I'll start the other way. So I have clients refer me, the people who are just evangelizing. Oh my gosh, Cody's the best, right? Those people though give out my information. Maybe I hear from like half of those people, right? But if I get the information, if they say, "Hey, call my so and so," and I have that, almost all of those are people who get converted, right? So, do you actually do anything to say like this introduction? Don't just throw my name out there willy nilly. Like, make this introduction. Like get us on a group text or something. Right?
Yeah. And that's kind of sort of what I touched on a little bit about what do you think is the best way to get us connected, or like I said, sometimes I'll say, you know him better than I do. What do you think is the best way to get us connected? Or experience shows me that when somebody just gives somebody the number, a lot of times that doesn't end up happening. So I want to make sure that your brother gets the help that he needs. So what do you think is the best way to get us connected? I try not to just leave it at like, oh yeah, I'll tell him about you. Or you come back, 2 weeks later. Oh hey, I gave my brother your card. It's like, oh, I haven't heard from him yet, and I want to make sure he gets taken care of. So what do you think's? I haven't heard from him yet. So what do you think's the best way to get us connected? And they might say, oh yeah, I'll text him right now, or oh, you give him a call, or whatever the case may be. Or you could just go in for, experience shows me that most of the time when somebody just gives out my number, I don't end up hearing from that person. So maybe a better way to go would be if you give me their number and I'll give them a call and make sure that they get taken care of.
So do you do that as part of your initial, or do you wait to see if this person hasn't contacted you? Like, is it something you actually worry about or handle, or?
When it comes up to the actual asking part, that's when I make sure that connection happens and don't just leave it to, oh yeah, my brother's thinking about buying a house. I'll let him know about you. And that's when I'll maybe add a little extra on to about how that almost, like you said, almost never works.
Yeah.
But definitely try and get. Someone told me once that the most valuable in our businesses, the most valuable piece of real estate is your name and their phone. And so I always try and go for that one way or another. But yeah, but again, that's where you're also kind of like softening it a bit by saying, you know them better than I do. What do you think is the best way? And he's like, oh, he's a texter. Text him, or don't call him on the phone. He'll get pissed off because he's, he works nights and he does, whatever, you want to find out what is the best way, but definitely would try to, be the one that's, making the contact or having somebody else. Even better, I mean, in my opinion, right nowadays, one of the best introductions is a group text or a intro email, which everybody's copied on it. Because then it's like, I've got a promoter in my past client database, and I've never even like really asked him to do it that way, but he always will. He probably sends me 3 or 4 clients a year, and it's always via email. He's like, hey John, this is Micah. John needs to get a loan. Have at it, you guys. And he's like by far like my top referring client, and that's how he does it. So yeah, I would definitely go for something like that for sure, rather than just leave it to a card passed off to somebody.
Complete side note. Do you ever, in these years that you've been in this industry in this way, that you've not spent $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on advertising? Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, yada, yada, yada. Do you ever pay for referrals? Do you ever say, oh, hey, I appreciate that referral. I'm going to Venmo you $100?
I can't. It's against the law. As a lender, you can't do that.
Give a gas card.
But that being said, I will send what I'll usually do is send like a personal handwritten thank you card with like a $10 Dutch Bros gift card.
Just something to acknowledge you did this.
Just acknowledge it, yeah. But which I think that's actually okay. Like a little, but I can't pay for
can't give somebody cash.
Referrals.
Give them $1,000.
I would lose my license if somebody reported me for
but
that.
I can in my industry. I just
not
sure.
No, some people do. Like I know in another state, a solar guy, and he's like, "Hey, send me a referral. I'll give you $1,000."
Yeah.
So yeah,
Most businesses
to me,
can, but we can't.
yeah.
Yeah.
But even if I could, to me, that is kind of more of like the,
Transactional.
I don't know, it's just kind of salesy and pitchy to me. Like, if you send me a referral, I'll pay you, versus, hey, I did a really good job. You noticed. Wouldn't it be nice if your friends got the same kind of service? So, I've got time to take care of them just the same way I took care of you. I don't know. It comes across a little more authentic, I think.
Or offer a discount.
Don't get me wrong. I'm looking for solar referrals for that guy.
So I think I have the question that everyone in this room actually wants to ask.
Okay.
What is the story behind your great shirts? Every week you're wearing a great shirt. Is there any? Do you just like wearing awesome shirts, or how'd you get into?
Okay. So I guess my my affinity for Hawaiian shirts was about, oh gosh, it's probably been 10 years. Went to Hawaii and had some kind of not brand new Hawaiian shirts that I took with me. And then while I was there, every place we would go, everyone would talk. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but they would say, "Oh, but if you come Aina, then it's a discount or it's cheaper or whatever." Well, come to find out, everybody thought I was a local because of the clothes I was wearing, and I had a little bit longer hair and a bigger beard. And so then so for the past 5 years, every month over at the gun show in Post Falls, I have a VA home loan booth table set up. And there's a gal there that comes and she sells shirts and plushies and little old furniture. This older lady comes and she always has really cool Hawaiian shirts. And so I bought some from her. But one of them that I got, it was, she's like, "Oh, this is one for the locals." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And when you look at it, like the lighter print is on the outside and the newer print is on the inside. She's like, "Yeah, the locals buy these in Hawaii because they don't want to look like tourists." So, and I was like, "Oh, it's like a real thing." I looked it up. It's true. And so I don't know. I thought
he's going to say concealed carry.
I got yeah, and then there was a couple places around here that had some good sales this summer, so I got some more. But that's the Hawaiian shirt story.
So something that we try to remember to ask anybody who comes and presents, and great presentation, is there a podcast you're listening to, an audio book you've listened to, a book you've read, something where you're like, these are game changers in your world?
Yes, I brought some, so you can come up and take a picture, check them out. I've got so this one is Influence by Robert Cialdini, and this one is, I mean, these are older books. Okay, so these are pretty dated. This one's falling apart, as you can see, with little tabs and bookmarks. This one is called Unlimited Selling Power: How to Master Hypnotic Selling Skills. So it's got a lot of, I mean, it sounds kind of fanciful, hypnotic selling skills, but there's some actual like science behind it in terms of talking with people, influencing people, making suggestions in a way that can, allow them to, integrate what you're saying and what you're asking and what you're trying to find out. So this is a really good one. It's an older book. And then if you want to go like super, super deep dive into language and influence, this one's called The Structure of Magic. This is, again, this is actually written more for like therapy, therapists. But
I think I like balloon animals, actually.
but so what happened was with this, people took the concepts and then kind of started applying it to sales and so anyway, so yeah, so those are some. And in terms of podcasts, I would say check out the Mortgage Channel, because that's me. And I will be recording an episode of it here today with our very own Dan Blanchard, so that'll be coming out soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.